Welcome to the Culinary Treasure Podcast. I'm Stephen Shomler, your host. Today is a follow-up episode. Every once in a while, I have to come back and visit with someone because something really cool happens in their story. I'd like to welcome Chef Jake Burden. How you doing, Jake?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you.
It is so excited to have you here. You know, I have never done a podcast that I don't love. Because I only work with stories I love, people I love. But yours, I just re-listened to your story, your podcast, the previous one you did. And if you are listening to this podcast, you can go find it. It's just go to Culinary Treasure Podcast or go to the website culinary-treasure-podcast.com. But it was an incredible, beautiful story. I kind of almost want to do it again, but that makes no sense. So I'm just telling you, if you want to know Jake's journey, how he became a cook and a chef, where his cooking journey began, his grandma, why the red sauce is so good here, what skiing has to do with his journey, what incredible thing his dad did when he was in high school, some really tough struggles that he thankfully had victory on related to his son's health and leukemia. I mean, there's just a lot packed into that story. So people need to go listen to that. But at the time we recorded your podcast, Offshore Grill, you'd open it, 2016?
Yep.
And so this is 2021, so you've been around about, 4 or 5 years now. It was in Rockaway Beach.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah. So now here's what I want you to tell me about. So your family, you were born in Tillamook. Your family lived in Wheeler when you were a boy, up until about 8 years old. Then you moved to Portland. But I want you to tell me about that time when you lived here on the Oregon coast, 0 to 8. Talk to me about the Blue Sky Restaurant.
So yeah, there was, back in the late 80s, a restaurant opened up called the Blue Sky Cafe by a local chef. And it was just amazing. Amazing food, amazing atmosphere, amazing service. It stood out. It was one of a kind at the time.
And your family came here?
And my parents would come here and eat a lot.
And you sometimes even ate here yourself?
I did. And I ate here, and we're talking about 12 years old or so, that I recall meals here and whatnot, and even before that. But even my parents would eat here, and me and my sister or a buddy, if we brought him down to the coast, we would, run around Manzanita and come check in and, what are you eating? What's that? Oh, can I have a bite? Oh, okay. All right, we'll be back. That kind of thing. And it was the culinary treasure of the North Coast. It really was.
I love how you say that, dropping the name Culinary Treasure. So you... your family, I said, ended up moving to Portland, and you had a really cool story I want to retell, but I'm not going to, where you ended up going to not Western Culinary, but at the last minute, you had made a list when you're 17 years old of things you wanted to do, including live in Colorado.
Yes, sir.
And I really am deeply convicted that the universe is pulling for you, pulling for all of us, but we have to own what we want and put that out into the universe. And we don't always get what we want, but if we don't know and don't put it out in the universe, we don't get it. So at 17, you put it out in the universe, Colorado.
I did. I was about to go to culinary school and backed out at the last minute and, said, now's the time. Let's go. And so I did. And it was one of the best moves I could have ever made, especially the way that my career path ended up. And
so you ended up working in Denver. Mm-hmm. And at one point in your journey, you wanted to come back to Portland.
Yes.
And you put that in the universe, and you don't come back to Portland.
Yes. Yes, it was... I was getting homesick. After 6 years, I don't know if I was starting to dry out because I was away from the ocean or what it was, but I started getting homesick, and I started realizing I was coming home more and more to visit every year. It used to be once, then it was twice, then it was 3 times. And my last trip out here, I was just like, I think it's time to move back home. I'm homesick, and I can always go back to Colorado. And so I... decided that in 2001 I was going to move back to Portland, and that's what I did.
And so then you're in Portland for a while, and then one day, time comes, you want to get back to the Oregon coast where you spent first 8 years or so of your life, and then a lot of times in the summers, even after you lived in Portland, and you want to go to the Oregon coast. And we mentioned Blue Sky Restaurant.
Right.
A friend walked into your office in Portland when you were ordering. I've listened to the previous podcast. You were ordering some food for the restaurant you were a part of, and friend walked in, and what did he tell you?
He, I had to get the look off my face of, what are you doing here? And he walks in and goes, hey, what's it going to take to get you to the coast? And, I said, okay, close the door. And, I just asked him what's going on. And he said, well, Julie is selling her share of the Blue Sky. I'm going to take over the kitchen, and I want you to come down and help me out and be a part of it. And so the timing couldn't have been better. It's like, like you said, you put it out in the universe, and the stars started to align because probably 2 weeks before that, the food and beverage contract of where I was working had just been sold. And I really didn't want to stay on with the new place. So I kind of was wondering what I was going to do. I wasn't too worried about it. And then, boom, here he comes, shows up in the office and tells me what's going on. So I said, okay, let me think about this. And I called my parents who were living in Nevada at the time. And I said, hey, this is what's going on. Food and beverage contract sold. I'm not going to stick around. But I just got an opportunity at the coast to help out with the transition of the sale of the Blue Sky. My parents were like, you're kidding me. I said...
Because they loved that restaurant.
Yeah. They were just like, you're kidding me. And so at that time, the house that my grandfather built when I was 3 years old, my parents had taken it over after he passed away, and it was just sitting there empty. And so I called them and said, hey, can I live at the house and whatnot? And my dad was just like, yes, please, somebody be there. It saddens me to know that it's just sitting there empty. So, exactly what you said. The universe just kind of took me by its wings and said, let's make this happen. And so I did it. I put my notice in at the hotel downtown, and in May I moved back down here in 2003.
Okay, so then the cool thing is you spent a little while here at the Blue Sky, and then you left. You did some other things, and then 2000, roughly 16 is when you opened. We already mentioned Offshore in Rockaway.
Yeah,
and things kind of progressed, and by 2020 it was time to leave that space. Every chapter in the story comes to an end.
Yes.
And some people don't realize, it's okay when chapters come to an end. But the chapter for the offshore there came to an end. And you start looking for another place to go. And where of all the places did you end up?
Well, I ended up right back at the Blue Sky.
So wait a minute. The restaurant you went to as a kid in Manzanita that you loved, that when you said, I got to get back to being a chef on the Oregon coast, you got back to being at the Blue Sky. That space came open and you moved offshore to Blue Sky.
Yeah. So,
wow.
We pretty much knew in like the first year being down in Rockaway that our business was going to be too big for the location that we had. And,
and that's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem.
Yeah. And it is a good problem to have. It's just, we were very small down there. It was lines out the door to the corner for hours. And, my wife and I and my chef, Jesse, were just like, we got to figure something out, man. This is crazy. So we spent a couple, for, I'd say about 2 years looking for other locations down there and whatnot. And just, for some reason, it wasn't in the cards. It's not what the universe wanted. So pandemic hit. We shut everything down to takeout only. And we knew that wasn't going to be able to suffice for us because of how our location was so small. We couldn't have inside dining. We couldn't even have our 3 tables on the outside because of the way things were set up and with the social distancing. So it was this one of those kind of limbo, like, okay, we gotta do something. We gotta keep moving forward. We can't just, this is great, this is fine, but it's not going to suffice in the long term. So in August of 2020, I got a phone call with the tip that this place was going to be on the market. And I was like, oh, okay, wow. Waited a little while, still wasn't on the market. Finally came on the market.
I have a friend, Kendra calls it the Tillamook Telegraph. She gets on the Tillamook Telegraph to find out what's going on the Oregon coast.
Yeah.
And I know Manzanita's not Tillamook, but I bet there's similar kind of, people know.
100%, man. 100%. This county knows everything. You hear one thing, just give it a day, it'll be all over the county.
Yes, someone else I love, I just got to mention another character in the Tillamook area I love is Derek Josie. He's a dairy farmer, and he's got to watch out, man, because he does anything out of line. People are going to know what Derek's doing. That Tillamook Telegraph.
100%.
Of course, that applies to everybody.
He's got all eyes on him.
And I someday hope to have him as a guest on the podcast, but he's a story for another time, but I love him.
Yeah,
I know you do too.
He's great, yeah. And so, it came on the market. I started looking at it. Then within a couple days, I was looking at it once an hour. And, in our old podcast, Offshore Rockaway was one of those aha moments because of the situation we were in with our son. If you go listen to it, you'll understand what I mean. And Manzanita was another aha moment. It just was this, like, the more I thought about it, the more I opened my mind up to it. Pros, cons, everything else, there really wasn't any cons. And it just was like, boom, aha moment. So I showed my wife. And because she's the one that has to agree on it.
If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
That's right. And so I showed it to her. She said, I want to go see it. So we got a couple walkthroughs, and she goes, I want it. Let's do this. And so we did it. And it took a few months, and we got it. And here we are.
That is phenomenal. Yeah, and to move restaurants to a new space during a pandemic. I mean, I have friends that have opened restaurants in a pandemic. Moving a restaurant during a pandemic, that is incredible and epic.
It is. And, there's some headaches. There's some struggles, definitely. Really, the biggest problem that we ran into is the social media. Like, we're having the hardest time getting them to change our address. It's like,
well, that'll happen eventually.
Exactly.
Don't you worry.
So it's just like, it was relocation, and that was the thing. It was just, it's the stars continuing to align in the universe from when we first started this, and it's only gotten better. It's gotten bigger, and the fact to be back home to do this, where we're doing this now, I don't even have words for it. I mean, it's phenomenal.
You better be careful because you made me cry twice in the last podcast, and I'm on the verge of tears now because I just love it when things come together for people, and just to think about you being here in this space, and the image that I have in my head is your parents would be in here, and you as a child would walk down and check out the beach. And now your kids are going to get to walk down and check out the same beach that you did when you were a kid. And that's just so full circle and so beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed. And
So bad news I have for you. Eventually the pandemic will get behind us. We're going to have indoor dining again someday. Someday it's going to happen. And if you're listening to this podcast and it's already happened, hey, fantastic. But when that happens, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to have lines already. It's going to happen again because this just is such a special place. But so people know you've got the coffee house. Mm-hmm. So people come in, they get a great cup of coffee. Sleepy Monk Coffee is who you use.
Yep, out of Cannon Beach.
Just phenomenal. You've got great pastries and bakery items so people can get coffee, come and go. And then roughly about noon, you have a lunch menu, and people can come in and have lunch. And then roughly about 4 o'clock, I say roughly because things change over time.
Right.
Roughly about 4 o'clock, you've got a dinner menu. People come in and have an amazing dinner. And that's so you still have the same basic setup. You still have the restaurant. You still have the coffee, serving people the whole time.
Yeah, it's the exact same business model in a way more comfortable, bigger space for us to do this. So, yeah, like you said, coffee, Sleepy Monk, and then our pastries. We actually have the room now to do all of our own pastries in-house. And that right there is a phenomenal feeling. And it just shows this move is going to be able to create more options for us to put out to the public, to put out to our guests. But also during the pandemic, it will bring more of an income option. We have huge plans for this place, baby steps. And once that all comes together and we have the inside dining, I mean, it's probably going to floor me. It's, it's going to put a lump in my throat to see this place operating the way that it's going to. The welcoming already in our first 2 weeks has been phenomenal. I've had so many people, whether it's family, longtime friends, family friends, one of the biggest comments I've gotten when we moved was, "Welcome home, Jake. Welcome home."
Oh, and how beautiful.
And I think that I think that was one of the biggest reasons for me to move up to Manzanita. But since our last podcast was, people are always asking me, "Why aren't you in the city? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you on a bigger market?" And I'm like, I've been there, I've done that. The coast is my blood. But the more I think about it is, this is a chance for me to cook for my family. My extended family, all my cousins, aunts, uncles that helped raise me. It would mean more for me more than anything to be able to cook for my grandparents that are no longer here. But this way I get to cook for their brothers, their sisters, their nieces, their nephews, and whatnot. And it is such a complete feeling. And to do this with my wife, to have my kids here involved in it, repeating my childhood, watching them. I mean, exactly what you said. It's a dream. It's a dream book. It's crazy.
All right, so the downside of your amazing menu is it's seasonal. You love the local farmers, the local producers right here on the Oregon coast. And so I fall in love with a menu item, and it disappears. And I fall in love with an item, and it disappears. But it comes back around. Mm-hmm. But I have to mention just a couple things, because this is a culinary podcast. Yeah. So likely, no promises, but likely the filthy fries will stay on the menu. I had those the other night. And it was not good because I just wanted to have 2 helpings of them and just eat that and then pass out. So talk to us about the filthy fries.
So the filthy fries are our version of dirty fries. Filthy is sexier than dirty, I think. So that's why I named them filthy. But it's home-style cut fries that we season with our own special blend of spices. And then we put pecorino cheese, grilled onions, Mama Lil's pickled goat horn peppers, and crispy pork belly. Toss that all together, and then what we did now is we serve it with a sauce that we call disaster sauce, and it's my version of pub food on my menu, and with a twist, and they're spicy, tangy, salty, and they're so good, and I can't wait till we do get open. Serve those up. People are going to be wanting beer. It's just going to complete the whole.
And I love Mama Lil's peppers. I at home if I need a quick meal, I have a boring, people follow Instagram stories, a boring turkey sandwich, toasted French bread, turkey, mayonnaise, and Mama Lil's peppers. And I can eat it quick. I can make it quick, and I'm back to creating content. Yep. So I mentioned Derek Josie, Mama Lil's peppers. I want to have you on the podcast and talk about you because they're phenomenal.
They are.
So yeah, I can see that being an amazing dish. You almost always have scallops on the menu. Now it changes, but the obnoxious thing about your scallops, I had them the other night, is they are perfectly cooked. I've had them a couple different times, and every time they're perfectly cooked. And hats off to you because that's not easy to pull off.
Thank you. Yeah, we take a lot of pride in the execution of what we do. The key to scallops is 1, get the moisture out of them. 2, hot oil. So you want to put your scallops nice, dry, salted in that hot oil, and kind of swirl that oil around every time you place a scallop down. Watch them how they start to caramelize, how they start to brown on the top. Flip them. About 30 seconds, a minute, depending on the size. Shut it off. They come out let them rest. They come out medium rare, melt in your mouth. And yeah, scallops are great. It's one of those things that I think they're so universal. They're so fun to play with because they can take on so much flavor, different flavors. And so we always try to have them on, and we just like to change it up. And I like doing seasonal and changing things up like that because 1, it pushes me to continue to be creative, but it also allows me to teach my staff different ways to cook things, different seasons bring different flavors, but you can still use the same product and put a whole different flair on it.
You know, and if I was going to, if I wanted to be a chef and have my own restaurant and I could come work for someone like you and I had to start out washing dishes, I would literally do it in a heartbeat. I know you started washing dishes in high school at a pizza place.
Middle school.
And that's the best way, I think, to move up. All the really good chefs, they often started working there. But if I could work for you, I would learn 2 things. I learned 3 things, actually. Here's what I've observed. First, you cook amazing food and how to do it. And you take the time to kind of, every so often, now it's not a cooking school, this is a restaurant, but you kind of help them a little bit expand their skills. The second thing they're going to learn is you run a successful business. And a lot of people that open breweries or restaurants, they love to cook, they love to brew beer, they forget they need to run a business. Yes. And you run a business, and I know your wife's your secret weapon to help with that, but being around is kind of seeing how things are done, that would help. And the third thing is, I can tell. I used to work with couples, I did banking and nonprofit. My nonprofit time, I work with couples, and I kind of have a sixth sense of people like each other. And I have a sixth sense if I go into a place, if there's a good corporate culture, and your employees are pains in the neck. They just are. But I have met many of your staff, and they're smiling. They're happy to be here, and it is a great corporate culture, and that is hard to pull off.
It is. Usually in a corporate culture, you're a number. That's what you are. You're a number. Your number affects the bottom line. But there's structure. There's structure that is good, that is needed to be successful. So take those structures, the way you do things, the organization, you bring it into a mom and pop, and then when it comes to your employees, this is where the family comes in. You treat your employees like your family, like they are your family, and they are. We put their needs on the same level as my wife and I's needs. If they need something, we're gonna do what we can to make it happen. And we respect them, we appreciate them. Anything that comes in a successful way to Offshore Grill and Coffee House, it is because of them.
And part of what makes you corporate culture is your values. And so part of your values that I really think is admirable is, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but the Oregon coast, the winter is slow, and the summer is busy. Have you ever noticed this phenomenon?
Yeah, it's lessening as we keep going. It's lessening. Winters are definitely getting better.
But summer's busy all the time.
Oh,
and of
summer
course,
is insane.
And of course, in the summer, then you're obviously open 7 days a week, right?
Nope.
So talk to me about that.
And that's another thing. Well, just like the people that come to visit our beautiful area, we live here. So summertime is the same for all of us.
It's just as beautiful for the locals as it is for the visitors.
100%. And really, it's a way for us to get out of town, go up the river to the local spots and hangouts and whatnot, spend days with our family on the river, get chores done,
So you're closed on
Monday, Tuesdays, years round. I want my staff to have 2 days off a week to live their life. They work for me. They don't live with me. They have their own life, and I respect that. Some of them have new babies. I want them to have that time with them. I know how much it means when you're a new parent, and it sucks leaving, and you're just like, oh, I already miss them, and you're 5 minutes down the road. And I want them to be able to enjoy their life, because they have a life too.
And there's some people in the culinary world, chefs or, restaurant managers listening to this that are thinking, how much money is he losing on Mondays and Tuesdays? What? And they're doing the math in their head, however they do their math. But I think some people underestimate quality of life. Mm-hmm. And you really got to value quality of life. And I just don't ever think, I think we kind of teach people unintentionally in North America that you need to sacrifice quality of life for your career and for your passion. And I just don't agree with that.
And I think you're right. But I think that's even more in the restaurant business. I've worked at places where, you walk in and all of a sudden you're scheduled for 14 days with no notice.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
And, it's like, and when you're down here, when you're in the seasonal atmosphere and whatnot, you're not gonna blow a job. You need money, you need to pay your bills, you need to do whatever. But I took those experiences when I became an owner again, that, hey, I didn't like this. This was not okay. And I applied that to my business. Like, I don't want to do anything to my employees that I didn't like being done to me.
That's a great way to live.
Taking your employees for granted and treating them like a number is not okay. Their people, their feelings. This business is so stressful, so hard. It is so up and down that they need that time to breathe, to exhale. And definitely during the summer when it's go, 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 you know, come Labor Day weekend, my staff is fresh. My staff is ready to go just like it was the beginning of June. Ugh. Because they have time to rest. They have time to breathe. They have time to spend with their loved ones, their family, their wife. Go upriver, go surfing, do whatever you want. And I respect that, and they need that. It's not that they want that. I feel they need that. Everybody needs that.
So the scalloped potatoes are on the dinner menu. Something that you can't tinker with, you can't take away from me very easily, is the lunch menu's got burgers on it. Mm-hmm. And burgers they're always in season for me in my world. And the thing I love is that I can fix up my burger however. I can add bacon. I can add avocado when you've got it. I can add pork belly when you've got it. I can add a fried egg, which is phenomenal. And I love all of those different things on burgers depending on what I want. But you've got this magic elixir that you use on various. Sometimes it appears on the dinner menu. Sometimes it appears in different things. But sometimes it's available as an add-on to the burger. Marionberry barbecue sauce.
Yes.
Talk to me about this crazy thing.
So what it is it is a gochujang Korean chili paste Marionberry barbecue sauce that we make in house.
Wait, say that again.
Gochujang Marionberry barbecue sauce.
And gochujang is
it's a Korean chili paste.
And it's so ridiculously good.
So good. So good. And it was just one of those things. This happened years ago. I don't even remember the first thing I put it on, but we were doing a menu change and whatnot, and I wanted to put a homemade barbecue sauce on there. And so I just started messing around, playing with flavors and whatnot, and we made this barbecue sauce, and it worked. It worked. And I really hope to, maybe one day bottle it.
I you mentioned, you have a little bit of faith journey in your background, mm-hmm. and there's a phrase, and some people know the church world, and there's a phrase in the church world that God loves you and has a plan for your life. And I'd like to think that I've improved that. I say that God loves you and I have a plan for your life. And so for me, if someday I can buy Offshore Grill Marionberry barbecue sauce, I would be happier than a pig in mud. And I would be thrilled to get some of your, like this special, I would love to have the Offshore Filthy Fry seasoning salt.
Right.
I would buy that in a heartbeat. And maybe an Offshore all-purpose seasoning salt. I would buy those things in a heartbeat. I'm just saying, man.
We got things in the works.
Just saying. Okay, and then back to the dinner menu. Something that's newer that you've added that is, I had it. It's phenomenal. It's not always around because it depends on the season, but when it's here, people have to get these Dungeness crab cakes.
Yes. Yeah, so right now, it's crab season. So right now, our coastal crab fleet are out there risking their lives, busting their butts to get this crab. And so I always make an effort to put crab on the menu, fresh crab. And I'm going to tell you right now, the fluctuation in price is insane. It is insane, especially this year. But it's worth it. These guys are crazy. These guys, what they go through to bring that crab to the docks is phenomenal. It's an amazing story. And I want to do everything I can to support them.
And then your crab cakes, they're beautiful. People can go to culinarytreasurepodcast.com, and there's an article with this episode, and they can see photos of these crab cakes. But they happen to be gluten-free.
Yes, sir. So I've always tried to, be very respectful of dietary needs, health needs and whatnot. And so I've been trying to find different ways to make things gluten-free. And recently my wife had to go to gluten-free. Best thing that's ever happened to her. She feels better than she ever has. And so when we came up here, I really wanted to be as gluten-free friendly as I could so she could eat, and whatnot. And so I use rice panko, completely gluten-free breadcrumbs in it. And you can't tell. It doesn't change the texture. It doesn't change anything. And it's something that I offer that a lot of places don't. You know, they use regular panko, gluten panko, and the rice panko was a good find.
And the last thing I'll mention, and this may come and go on the menu. I don't know. I haven't asked you about this one before, but your mac and cheese is ridiculous.
Thank you.
I mean, it is ridiculous. And for me, your kind of mac and cheese. Well, tell us about the mac and cheese, and then I'll riff on it a little bit.
Well, I mean, really, it's real simple and basic. I mean, we don't make a bechamel. We don't make a base sauce. We do it fresh to order every time. And you know, it's a reduction of white wine, shallots, garlic, then heavy cream, and then we use a 3-cheese blend. We use Tillamook medium cheddar, Tillamook sharp white cheddar, and Parmesan.
And Tillamook is a creamery out here in the Oregon Coast, is that right? Yeah. I
don't know if you've ever heard of it. They're making a name for themselves. You might be able to find some, here and there. And
I just got to shout to Tillamook. They do a lot of really cool work behind the scenes for the Oregon Cheese Guild. Sometimes I help the Oregon Cheese Guild out, and boy, Tillamook, they just hats off to you guys at Tillamook, because a lot of stuff you do that people will never know, and I'm just grateful.
Well, let me piggyback onto that. I'm glad you said that, because actually Tillamook Creamery does a lot more behind the scenes than people realize.
To help the community.
Oh, 100%. To help, even people like me and whatnot. Tillamook Creamery just put out a lot of money for local grants. And, in a time where, there was things going on in the county political wise and whatnot and everything. And small businesses weren't being taken care of. And they still weren't. To a certain extent, they still weren't.
But Tillamook stepped up.
Tillamook stepped up and said, hey, we got your back, and they worked with Visit Tillamook Coast and OCVA, and they put together a grant package and whatnot for marketing, and it really, really was just a phenomenal gesture, a phenomenal thing to do for a county that thrives on tourism, agriculture,
yep,
and whatnot.
And I just got to say that tourism is it's a double-edged sword. And tourism is fun and it's great, but some tourists are pains in the neck. I call them ugly tourists. I call them Upton, the ugly tourist, when I do teaching about tourism. I sometimes get to speak about tourism and culinary tourism in particular, but Upton, the ugly tourist. And so I'm just going to tell you, if you listen to this podcast and you visit the Oregon coast, this is a community that takes care of itself, and it's precious. So treat it that way. Treat it like something special. Don't be an ugly tourist. And just be very careful. This is a special place, and it is not a hot place for you to have your free-for-all and not be sensitive to the people that live here in this community.
Yeah, 100%. This community, really the backbone of it is generations of Native families that have worked their butts off, to make this community so inviting, so beautiful, so tranquil. And, you're always going to get what I call Turons. It's a phrase I picked up when I was in Steamboat. They're tourists, but they're morons.
I love that. I'm stealing that.
And
moron tourists, Turons.
Yeah, it's, things don't change just because you're in a different city, Read the signs. If you're supposed to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you're supposed to social distance. It's amazing how many people, come down here and they get mad at your staff because of the county's regulations or things that are beyond your control. But it's no different than where they are right now. So I don't know if it's just I'm out of town, I'm spending money here, so now I'm going to be a moron and treat you like an idiot. And it's like, no, that's not how we work. And what I love about this community is that they will not put up with it.
Yep. Amen. So back to the Tilly mac and cheese. You can do things like when it's in season, you can add Dungeness crab on top. When it's in season, you can add pork belly lardons, which is ridiculous. Grilled chicken breast. So you really
and pan-fried oysters.
Oh my goodness! So you can, to use a fancy technical term, you can gussy up your mac and cheese.
Oh, 100%.
And so what I recommend people do is that they come, they have an appetizer, they have lunch or dinner, and then when they think they're close to leaving, they order a Tilly mac and cheese to go, and then they have that the next day. Because I tell you, some Tilly mac and cheese, if it's been overnight in your fridge and you take it out and you put it in your microwave or you fry it on your pan, depending on where you're staying, it is phenomenal.
Oh, it is. It brings a whole nother level.
I mean, it's almost better the next day, kind of like a good chili.
I think lasagna is better the second day than the first day. Exactly. And it's funny because a lot of the comments that we do get about the mac and cheese was like, that was so good, but I couldn't finish it, so I had it for lunch today, and it was even better. And and yeah, and that's the thing is right now with takeout only, really want to make the menu travel friendly. I don't want to put things on there that aren't going to be good by the time you get them home. So, I would love to do calamari, not a good travel item. I'm not doing breakfast right now. Don't think eggs are a good travel item. There's certain things that I want to respect the food and respect the product that we use. And no matter if you're driving 10 minutes, 5 minutes or whatnot, I want it to taste good when you open that box and you eat it. So my menu is developed to be in a box right now. It'll be great on a plate, but it'll also travel well.
Well, Jake, it's been a delight to have you on the Culinary Treasure Podcast. You do a phenomenal job with what you do, and I just want to thank you so much, and thanks for sharing this update with all of us.
Thank you, man. I'm so glad that you came back down here. You got to see the new place, and, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for what we have in store, and it's going to be a great, great journey.
And, on the Culinary Treasure Network, we got a couple shows, and, someday you're going to bring that chicken fried pork belly back on the menu, and when you do, you can bet your bippy I'm going to come right out here and we're going to film an episode of Your Next Craving highlighting that chicken fried pork belly. Is that all right?
So I'll tell you right now, here's my promise to you and everybody else. You'll be the first person I call when I say new menu's coming out, chicken fried pork belly's on. This is the day it's happening.
I'll be, you'll have to get medical technicians standing by because I will jump out of my skin.
That's fine. We can do that.
All right. We'll wish you all the best. Cheers.
Thank you.